Yes, and for the government and the ANC to want to grab a free ride out of every project coming their way in the mining and energy complex is besides unethical, is totally ridiculous.
How do we resolve South Africa's energy crisis? I posed this question to Ted Blom in a recent episode of my podcast, Solutions with David Ansara. What follows is a short extract from our longer conversation. If you would like to access the full interview with Ted Blom, that's linked in the description below. Enjoy.
Okay, so I mean, I don't hold a patent on solutions, but I can offer to share with you my thinking over the last 30 odd years. Firstly, I think we've got a mindset problem in South Africa. You know, we've always been very obedient people, and we've always sort of bowed over to the politicians and to the government. But given where we are now, with all the corruption that's come out of the Zondo Commission and elsewhere, we now can see that we're actually being led by a bunch of scumbags who really are only looking after their own interests and couldn't care continental about the rest of the population. So you've got to get your mindset right first and say, listen here, if we're going to wait for these people to sort out our problems, we're going to wait forever. And in fact, the solution will never be dealt. So what we need to say as business people, we have a responsibility to our shareholders and to our communities to take control of what is deficient in our makeup and to make this economy work come hell or high water, and irrespective, like in Italy, irrespective of the government of the day. Governments come and governments go, and we are merely custodians of the earth for our future generations. Nobody owns anything. We're just custodians. So if you get the right mindset, then you say, well, what do I need to do? What are the options available to me to address my needs? And again, we started off the conversation off record by saying, whatever the solutions are, they've got to be fit for purpose. And every sector has its own needs and its own profile in terms of what will work in terms of solutions for that sector or for that need. In terms of renewables, I said up front, it's quite good for households, and it's a little bit of an expensive solution because you don't get a lot of efficiency, and it's not that reliable because you need storage capacity one way or the other. But there's very little mission critical stuff happening in your household. So whether you wash your washing today or tomorrow when the sun's out and it can power your washing machine or whatever, it's not critical. Whether you have a cold dinner or a hot dinner, it's not mission critical. But there are mission critical operations in this country, more so because we're an industrialized country with mining, and I cannot, and I have interest in the mining industry. I do mining and energy. I cannot for the moment think of sending people underground when I know there isn't enough electricity to oxygenate them, cool them down, and bring them back safely up on surface if there is an emergency. So that's a mission critical operation, and it's like an operating theater in a hospital. You wouldn't dare start an operation if you think that the power is going to fail within minutes of starting the operation and having cut the patient open. So for those type of operations, you need very reliable, predictable power systems, and you need 24/7 power. Same for your smelters. You can't let your smelter freeze because it will take more than 6 months to unfreeze it and to chip out all the residue. So there are mission critical applications that need predictable, and it's called in the industry dispatchable power. In other words, you can book it ahead of time and say, well, tomorrow morning 6 o'clock when I flick the switch, the power will be there. That's the type of power that you need to run an industrialized economy. And so unfortunately, that type of power typically works best in large chunks, and that's why it's natural for the government to own those type of operations or to initiate those type of operations. And Eskom was initiated mainly by the mining and industry needs of that time in 1923. And the mission given to Dr. van der Bijl when he set up Eskom was to supply cheap, dispatchable, reliable energy to our industrial engine of South Africa. And it was very, very successful. In fact, Eskom won the award as Global Utility of the Year in 2001 in New York City. And justly so. It was one of the top utilities of the world, even though it maybe not supplied everybody with power, but the ones that was designated to supply did very well. Now, if you come to where we are now as industrial users who are now islands of need, crying for power, it's a little bit more difficult. So you can't rely on Eskom. They're broken, and they are so corrupted and interfered with that I don't think they'll ever come right. And secondly, you need to get past a whole lot of hurdles because we are being strangled by the regulations in this country. You need to be able to say, well, come hell or high water, I'm going to get past these hurdles, and the ones that I can't get past, and which I think I deem are unnecessary or illegal or illegitimate rather, I'm going to ignore them. I'm going to be bolshy, and I'll take my case to court if I need to be, but I will do what is necessary to meet my needs as an industry to supply jobs and to supply development and GDP for this economy. And I don't think any court is going to actually penalize you for taking that attitude, given the history, which is now very, very obvious to everybody as to what the situation is and how dreadful, how dire the situation is in South Africa. So you really need businessmen who've got the kumps to actually take control and say, I'm going to do whatever is necessary. Now, once you get there, then you do an options analysis and say, well, which of my missions are mission critical? And then you cut your cloth to suit that need. And typically for the mining industry, you will need either gas, but we don't have a gas infrastructure and we don't have supply, but that can be developed very quickly, or you need coal. And there's a big problem with fossil fuels and the farce of global warming. And I say that learnedly because I've done my research on that area. And then, or thirdly, nuclear. There are other smaller new technologies that are emerging, but they're not industrial grade yet. So at this stage, they're not going to solve today's problems. They maybe solve next generation's problems. But the answer lies in one of those. So somewhere along the line, you need to have space to be able to put up your own power plant, and you need to have the budget. And typically, if you're a corporate, and I come out of the corporate world, we've always taken energy as a buy-in. We've never said we'll put up our own plant. And putting up an energy plant can be quite expensive because you've got to go for quite big scale, and you've got to build in a lot of redundancy if you're now going to be the sole supplier of your own energy, because you, as I said, you've got mission critical stuff. So that will limit what your availability is. And of course, if you look along the paradigm, solar is mooted as your cheapest. It's in fact not. It's in fact the most expensive because everybody forgets to add in the cost of storage, which is 20 times more expensive than coal. But anyway, but you'll then do your investigations and try and do a hybrid solution. I think that's the only way to go forward, is to do a hybrid solution that will hopefully be economical, affordable, and will provide you with the level of redundancy and energy security that your business requires. And really, it will take a particular type of animal, somebody who's outspoken, somebody who's got thick skin, who can withstand the pressure from the politicians. I mean, I spoke to some people last week. They said they're quite happy to put in the energy, but when they approached the government and asked for permission, they were told they're going to have halve off at least 30% for BEE. Well, that's all nonsense, because hiving off stuff for departments or divisions of society that don't add anything to the equation is an absolute waste. I can't think of a bigger waste than spending money on utilities that add no value to your solution that you're trying to develop. So yes, and for the government and the ANC to want to grab a free ride out of every project coming their way in the mining and energy complex is besides unethical, is totally ridiculous. And I think any wise businessman will do the right thing and ignore it and send them packing to where they belong. And that is the only way. If you don't have that sort of guts, if you don't have the frontier attitude where I'm going to take control of the situation, and anything that comes in my way, I will bulldoze out of the way. And I'll make sure I deliver to my constituency, my stakeholders, the right solution at the right price. And that's it. I'm not taking no for an answer. That's the mentality, the winner's mentality that will get us through this. Anything more timid or less robust, I'm afraid you can close down this economy and we will all sit and watch the sunset.
Thanks for watching. Let's hand over to you, our audience. How do you think we can solve South Africa's energy crisis? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments section. Also, if you would like to watch the full discussion with Ted Blom, that's linked over here. You can also subscribe to my other channel. That's linked over here. My name is David Ansara. This is the CRA. Until next time, take care.